Hello and welcome. So, if you're here live, I'd love it if you would pop in to the comments. And if you're watching on the replay, thanks for being here too. So, in case you don't know, my name is Julie Fei-Fan Balzer, and I am an artist living outside of Boston. You can find me online everywhere as at Balzer Designs, which I think is right down here in the corner. So that's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, the whole thing. So we are busily discussing The Artist's Way. And basically, every week we tackle a chapter in this book. There are 12 weeks to cover. We're currently on week 6. And basically, the way the book club works is that I share my experience of the week, and I'm excited and interested to hear your experience of the week. And then we just sort of have a discussion based on your experience of it, whether you've read the book or you're just reacting to what I'm sharing. And then we kind of are trying to find our way together, is what I'd say. So when I first picked up The Artist's Way, I just had heard that it has changed so many people's lives, and I didn't know a lot about it. And as I've gotten into it, I've had kind of a mixed reaction to it, and I feel like I'm not alone in that. So hello, everybody. Thanks for popping into the chat. So without any further ado, I'm going to share my vlog from this week, which is basically, so all through the week, I just kind of share a little bit about my in the moment experiences with the book. And I'm excited to hear what you think too. So here we go. 6. Recovering a sense of abundance. So it says, this week you tackle a major creative block, money. You are asked to really look at your own ideas around God, money, and creative abundance. The essays will explore the ways in which your attitudes limit abundance and luxury in your current life. You'll be introduced to counting, a block-busting tool for clarity and right use of funds. This week may feel volatile. Volatile? Volatile. Volatile. So she says, most of us harbor a secret belief that work has to be work and not play, and that anything we really want to do, like write, act, dance, must be considered frivolous and be placed at a distant second. This is not true. So just to be clear, writing, acting, and dancing, they're all work. I don't know a single person who's been successful in any of those fields that hasn't done a lot of work. And just because you enjoy some aspects of the work doesn't mean it's not work. I have a job doing what I love. I don't enjoy every aspect of what I do. There's an enormous part of what I do. So Steve and I were talking, and I said, if I didn't have to work, there's a lot of stuff I wouldn't do that I do right now, period. I get rid of all the business aspects pretty much, and I just play all day. I mean, who wouldn't, right? If I never had to fill out another spreadsheet or form or anything like that, I would love it. I would love it. If I never had to answer another email again, I would be the happiest person on earth. But I do. And I accept that I have to do those things because I love the other parts of it. You know what I mean? I feel so relieved that Julia Cameron and I don't have to fight this week, because I do agree with her here. And this is something that I have been working on in myself, and I continue to work on in myself. Which she says, let me be clear that the luxury I'm talking about here has nothing to do with penthouse views, designer clothes, zippy foreign sports cars, or first class travel. What this man enjoys all those privileges, but what he doesn't enjoy is his life. He has denied himself the luxury of time with friends, time with family, above all, time to himself with no agendas or preternatural accomplishment. His many former passions have dwindled to mere interests. He is too busy to enjoy pastimes. He tells himself he has no time to pass. The clock is ticking, and he is using it to get famous. And while I'm not using my time to get famous, I think of it as I'm using my time to pay bills. I do often say, I have to work. Like even right now, it's 8:20 p.m. Put my son to bed, and now I'm here in my office doing work. On the other hand, one of the things that I have been working a lot on is reading, which is something I enjoy a lot and really dropped out of my life. So I've read 20 something books already this year, which is amazing. It's more than I read last year, I think, in total. Because I've made it a priority to take the time for myself. And I'm still trying to coast off of last week's thoughts about the Cy Twombly idea that he would just spend days reading poetry. you need stuff to come in if stuff is going to go out as an artist, right? Like I have been making and taking the time to spend an hour or two a day reading, an incredible luxury, an incredible waste of time. But I love it and I feel stimulated by it, and it's not work related. I've been reading terrible body harlequin romance novels and random books about like sort of modern day witches and like all sorts of weird fun stuff that just like is like Cheetos for my brain and takes me to another place. So this is my first sort of morning pages breakthrough, I guess you would say. So I've been doing my little sketches in my thumbnail sketchbook, and that led to some other things, which led to some other drawings, which finally led to this stencil design that I made last night, and I'm just refining it here in Illustrator. But it's kind of exciting because this idea wouldn't have come up if I hadn't just been doing these sort of like daily thumbnails. So again, I'm not totally sure that they're morning pages, but I can see that they're having already a lot of value for me as an artist. Okay, you guys, I have new contacts and I have to wear glasses with the new contacts in order to read. Anyway, so let's do the check-in. So how many days this week did you do your morning pages? 4 out of 7 probably. How have you try that again? Have you used them yet to think about creative luxury for yourself? How was the experience for you? Well, so I haven't, but I would say like you saw in the vlog, you know, I did come up with some things from them. They directly led to some ideas. I'm enjoying doing them more than I have anything else, so I'm into it. How did your artist, did you do your artist date this week? Have you considered allowing yourself to? What did you do and how did it feel? So there's an artist I like named Robert Joyner, and I took an online class from him, and I did really, really enjoy it. I got interrupted by a phone call, but here we go. Did you experience any synchronicity this week? I did. At least I think I did. So Steve and I went to a thrift shop. It's one of our favorite kind of dates. And I was in the book section, one of my favorite kind of places. And I randomly pulled this book off the shelf and I opened it up and there was Julia Cameron. I think that's synchronicity, don't you? Okay, were there any other issues this week that you consider significant for your recovery? So I didn't really do the money thing the way that she said to do it this week. What I did do is we use this service called Mint. I don't know if any of you have ever used it, but it basically like keeps track of your bills and what you're spending, and you can put like multiple credit cards, multiple bank accounts, etc. into it and get a snapshot of kind of everything. And so, I mean, it should be no surprise, but like of the spending we do that's not like insurance, medical, heating, you know, like the things that you have to pay for in order to like have a house and teeth and all that kind of stuff. It's food. That is our biggest category. And I actually was thinking that, you know, this was talking about luxuries and little luxuries. And like, I think for us as a family, it's like a luxury. You go out for a meal. It's like a luxury. You get takeout instead of having to make something. So I think that's one way that we expand into little luxuries. So if I had to sum up my basic like feelings for the week, I would say I'm less mad at the book, even though so much of this chapter was about God, but I just let that go. And I'm focusing in on my goal about like really cementing me and getting clarity and really sort of figuring out, you know, who I am. And I feel like I'm not making any big progress. It's not like it's super obvious, but it does feel like, you know, I'm thinking about things. Things are percolating. So we'll see what happens. Okay. So that's sort of the basics of the week. And I want to say that in case you haven't read this chapter or aren't keeping up with it, sort of my biggest takeaway from it is this idea of luxury, meaning like, are you doing little things to indulge your creativity? Are you doing little things that make you feel good, or are you living, in a way that you don't do that stuff? And I think perhaps because, again, I'm still sort of thinking about Cy Twombly and how much he read and how important that is. Yeah, I like this idea of luxury. And to a certain extent, like, the artist dates are a luxury, right? They're time that you block out in your calendar just for you, just for your own enjoyment, pleasure. Do you know what I mean? All that kind of stuff. So, and as Donna says here, she says, I think we can all give ourselves little gifts, time to do something, take out an event, but life is real and we all have to do things we don't want to do. Yeah, 100%. And I think, like, that is another thing, which is, I truly believe that being an artist of any kind, whether you're a writer or a dancer or anything like that, is not like a foo-foo-la-la thing where all you do is just be like, oh, I'm creative. It's like you have to be a business person either to run your career or to, do you know what I mean, run your business or whatever it is, to figure it out. And so I think that's always good to remember. And Sherry says she's trying to get us out of the miserly mindset. And I 100% agree. I think I do it all the time with stuff. Like, I'll see an art supply that I've been like thinking about and looking at and and I've really wanted, and I, blah, blah, blah. And Steve is always like, just get it. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. And then, the second my son is like, I want that toy, even though he has a million toys. I'm like, oh, of course you can have that toy, because I want him to have all the things he wants, but I don't always let myself have all the things I want. And of course it's a balancing act and you need to stay in budget and all that kind of stuff. But I do think that I need to be very conscious of giving myself some little indulgences. You know what I mean? And Ellen says, focusing on your goals is hard. Arting is luxurious for me. Absolutely. I feel that way sometimes. So when I had art as my hobby and I had a separate job, I remember just the feeling of, like, when I had time to do art, I just felt like it was like, it just felt like, I don't know how to describe it. It just felt so good. It was like diving into, like, a pool of something cool and luxurious. It just felt wonderful. Sherry says the do I deserve it question, 100%. I think that this is so true. And it is this thing, I think, is particularly as women, but this, like, was I good enough? Was I good enough to get it? Did I do enough stuff? And it's kind of like, did you eat your salad so that you can have your dessert? Did you know what I mean? It's like, how many people eat a salad and French fries because, they're trying to sort of balance things out. And it's always like, did you do enough work to deserve the treat? And I think maybe sometimes you just get the treat because you just get the treat, right? And Donna agrees, because she says, like the saying goes, just buy the shoes or the art supplies. 100%. It's true. It's hard to remember though, right? But I think, like, it's those, so, for instance, so I'm the, like, room mother at my son's preschool, and we recently orchestrated a gift from the parents to the teacher because one of the other teachers is sick. And so she's been really, like, doing the work of two teachers. And we just wanted to say thank you. And we had talked a lot about, like, not wanting her to burn out and all this kind of stuff. And, like, one of the ways you do that, right, is you show somebody that they matter, that they're important, that you care about them, that you want to give them a little luxury of some kind, right? And it was so clear to me that I needed to do it for this teacher, and other parents obviously also agreed, but I can't see that for myself, right? Because it's always like, no, I'm fine. Even so, Steve's been sick this week. And yesterday I said to him, go to bed and, like, just take care of yourself. And he looked at me and he said, you wouldn't. And I said, I know, but, like, I always work when I'm sick and stuff. And he was like, well, then I shouldn't go to bed either. And I was like, oh God, it's not a competition. Like, we're just different people. But then I was like, wait a second. Why do I always work when I'm sick? Why do I always, there are several business trips that I went on where I had to go to the emergency room, and then I was at the job, within 12 hours doing what I needed to do, despite the fact that I was sick or ill or had a problem, because I was there to work, So it's like been drilled into me, like, never take any time for yourself. Sherry says, life is short, eat dessert first. Actually. Donna says, I find it disturbing that the word suicide, actually suicidal, came up again for someone on the edge. Maybe not helpful. Page 105. Yeah, it is. And I will say this. Reading this book, one of the things that I was thinking about was that maybe a lot of people are suicidal. I don't know. And like, is it a norm? And it's like, maybe we don't think about it, but I feel like she's coming from a very, very dark place, Julia Cameron. And maybe that's why she needs to like acknowledge it. I don't know, because I don't know what I don't know. And I don't know how it works to feel suicidal. Like if it's common or not is basically what I'd say. There was this quote that I really liked from Tolstoy, which seems, but anyway, it says, true life is lived when tiny changes occur. And I just was thinking about the idea of tiny changes, because one of the things that I said at the end of my vlog is I said, I'm not sure that I'm like changing. Like, are these thumbnail sketches changing me that I'm doing as morning pages? Is going through the artist way changing me in some way? And I think, we're 6 weeks through, we're at the halfway point. And I guess I'd say to you, like, do you think that you're changing? Are there enough incremental, tiny things happening that you feel something percolating in you and being different? I just don't know. On a positive note, by the way, Ellen says she's on Amazon buying herself a me treat. If you needed a sign to buy yourself a treat, this is it, right? Sherry says she has dealt with lots of people and maybe there are lots of those thoughts that are out there. Yeah. And I think it's also possible because obviously I think a lot of people have talked about this. She's been very open about it. She mentions AA a lot in the book, that she definitely came out of, I think, a very dark place of needing to stop drinking and maybe having some negative thoughts and stuff like that. So Sherry says, I have watched you change and grow as an artist. Thank you, Sherry. I'm so glad to hear that. That's exciting. I think that it's hard to see change in yourself, right? Because you see yourself every day. And so it's hard to know whether things are moving. So did anybody do this thing, Money Madness and Exercise, where you had to complete all the phrases? I did some of them. And I have to say, I used to be really afraid to talk about money and to think about money and to like, it felt like a very like rude, taboo thing. Right. And then a couple things happened. I got divorced, and that you really have to you have to talk about money when you get divorced. Right. And then also I became the breadwinner, and then I started to absolutely be aware of the bills and all that stuff in a way that I hadn't before. And so I feel like my answers to these questions are a lot different maybe than they might have been before I really had to have some of those hard conversations with myself and with other people, do you know what I mean, about money. Donna does mention that exercise was redundant from line to line, and I do think that is also true. People with money makes people. I'd have more money if. My dad thought money was. My mom always thought money would. In my family, money caused. Money equals. If I had money, I'd. If I could afford it, I'd. If I had some more, and it sort of goes on like that. And so, yeah, I think a lot of the answers end up being the same. I often find that she has some repetitive tasks, and I wonder if it's trying to force you to like think. It's at a question from a different angle, or I mean, I don't know. Donna also says the thing that keeps coming up for her is hiring a housekeeper. 100%. What a fantastic luxury and a way to give yourself the gift of some more time. Sherry mentions that she did do all of the exercises this week. That's great. I think that the exercises in the book don't get talked a lot about, right? People talk about the morning pages and people talk about the artist day, but they don't really talk about the exercises. And she does every week have a very long list of exercises. And the thing that I thought was interesting is that I started to realize this week, I mean, we're on week 6. I can't believe I only realized it. But I started to realize that she really has these categories that she's putting everything in: clearing, creation, communication, and that acceptance, prosperity. Like that's why all these things, the chapters are named as they are, because it feels like she's setting up a system for you so that maybe you could think of later down the road, like, or maybe this is my own impetus, but you could think of your own questions that would fit into some of these categories. Sherry says most of her questions are a little redundant. I agree. I think there's overlapping in all these chapters. Like they're not very clearly separated. They're definitely kind of all over on top of each other. By the way, this is a quote that sums up to me like one of my differences with her, maybe, I guess I would say, which is this quote right here. It's from Lawrence Calcagano, who I don't know who that is. Lawrence Calcagano. A better person would have looked it up, but I did not. I apologize if anybody knows who that is. And it says, as an artist, it is central to be unsatisfied. This isn't greed, though it might be appetite. And I wonder about that. It's like, it kind of goes back to like the hungry artist, or the idea that like, in order to be good at something, you must never be satisfied. And I'm not sure that that's true. Like, I think you can be satisfied. I think you can finish work and be proud of it. I think you can finish work and be done with it. I mean, I think like, who's the happiest person on earth? It's not actually someone who says they're happy. It's someone who is content. It's someone who doesn't need the high of being happy, you know what I mean, to escape the low of being unhappy. It's someone who is just very content, right, with what they have. Sherry says she is causing us to think differently than we have been, maybe deeper or wider, you choose. Yeah, I think to me, I have drawn a parallel between this and going to therapy, right? Because there's nothing is like magic about therapy necessarily, except that you sort of have to think more deeply about the issues that you're having, because you have to talk it through and you have to really consider it. And so that's basically what she's asking you to do here, right? Is like, think about your connection to money. Talk about your connection to money. Do your feelings about money come from your parents if you've never considered it? You know, like, think about it. And so I think that is good. Wow, I'm sounding like a Julia Cameron fan today. Wow, halfway through. Okay, Donna says, I realize the reader is supposed to focus on the self, but 30 years later, I feel like people are more reflective on themselves. It is probably just the change in times. Oh my gosh, yes, Donna. This is so true. I think that maybe because of books like this, maybe because of a shift in the culture and the ability that like it's okay to talk about mental health. I mean, the fact that I have said many times like, oh, I was in therapy. And that's not like a weird thing. Most people I talk to have been at some point. People talk about couples counseling like it's totally normal and not like a nuclear thing. People talk about, you know, taking a mental health day. People talk about, you know, how they really feel. And I think that those things are so key. And I can't remember if I said this last week, but it has really stayed with me that I had been talking to my mom, who's actually a little too old to be a boomer. And she was saying something about how men don't talk about real things or about their feelings or anything like that. And I said, that's generational, because think about my brother or my husband and their friends, and they definitely do those things. So I think a lot of things have changed generationally for all of us in terms of being able to, you know, talk about things. And Sherry, yes, it's so refreshing. Things are becoming much more open. I think people are feeling more and more free to share who they really are and what's really going on for them, you know, and less like you have to be strong and silent and never show any weakness. I mean, the internet is still a problem because there's still mean people out there, but on the whole, I think it's really good. So I would say like, I'm feeling pretty much like I'm not sure if this book is going to do something, be quite the, what does they say on it? Like a life-changing, whatever. But I mean, it does say at the top, the description says it's a course in discovering and recovering your creative self. Now, I work in a creative job. I am creative. I do creative things all the time. Like, so what does discovering and recovering your creative self mean for me? And maybe what it means is the ability to go a little deeper, to think about things outside of sort of what I have to do and maybe go towards what I want to do. Because it is true that, like, let's say I was doing a lot of painting, but I really felt like I wanted to do more collage, but I was worried people wouldn't follow me because they're used to me painting instead of doing collage or something like that. Maybe this would be a good roadmap then for me to figure out a way to get towards the kind of doing the art I like. And I think like that happens, right? As an artist, you develop different tastes, different things. Sherry says maybe finding your joy again. I think that's very true. I think the pandemic has certainly downtrodden many people, including me to a certain extent. And I think that, having a child has been a huge life change and trying to figure it all out with that for me. So yeah, maybe finding joy again is a great idea too. And again, I think the little indulgences, the little luxuries, like that's part of how you find your joy, whatever that is. It's part of the way that you remember that this is all fun, that this is all enjoyable. So I'm feeling very, very positive going into week 7. And week 7 is recovering a sense of connection. So I haven't read any of this chapter, but I'm excited about it because I feel like it's going to be the thing I like, which is community and connecting with other people. Maybe it's not, but that's going to be my guess. I also already know what my artist date is going to be this coming week. Tell me about your artist date if you'd like. I'd love to hear what kinds of things you guys have been doing. But there's going to be a walking tour we do this thing in my town called yard art, which is this outdoor art. And the woman who is like the arts czar or whatever for the town is going to lead a walking tour of a couple of the different pieces. So I'm really excited just to see some of the pieces, hear a little about them, talk to some other people who like art. I think it'll be really awesome. And this is a great comment to end with. Donna says, we all change and hopefully evolve over time. Maybe this book or the discussion can help us with that. Yeah. Because I think, yes, we do all change and yes, we all evolve, but it's not necessarily always in the direction that we want. So maybe we can direct a little bit the direction in which we get to evolve. Oh, and Sherry says she went to the beach for 4 days, which sounds amazing. Okay, thank you so much for being here. Again, I appreciate you. And if you want to take a class with me, you can find all my classes online at balzerdesigns.com. And I do have some in-person classes coming up as well. The one in June is sold out, but there's a September class for intermediate and advanced students. And of course, there's monthly membership. And you can, of course, see everything that I offer at juliebalzer.com. So thanks so much. And hopefully I will see you next week. Bye.